transphobia and misogyny at the airport.
Trans people are valid, trans people are valid, trans people are valid.
I think you're born LGBT. I think you choose to be queer.
Another day, another influencer caught faking a hate crime for views and attention.
Pronoun of the day is slugs.
We're gonna react to this fake hate crime on TikTok and so many other crazy videos from the Clock app, all from the perspective of a gay guy who hasn't lost his last brain cell quite yet. Up first, like I mentioned, we're gonna take a look at a video from a young man named Griffin Maxwell Brooks, who identifies as non-binary and has over 1 million followers on TikTok. He just reported a hate crime to his followers that apparently happened to him while flying. Let's take a look at this video and see if we've got a real victim here or another Jussie Smollett.
So I just got kind of hate crimed at Heathrow on my way back to New York from a little holiday in London, which is maybe an appropriate edging of re-entering the United States right now, but let me explain.
So I'm gonna let they, them finish, but typically when somebody is the victim of a hate crime, they're not smiling into the camera 30 seconds after. Might be a tiny red flag.
So I check in, I walk through security, all my bags are going through the scanner, I'm wearing my shoes because you get to wear your shoes now, shout out to that, and my ankles set off the alarms, and I'm okay, sure, I'm wearing my big, mid-calf Bottega boots because I'm fierce like that at the airport. Happens sometimes, not a big deal. I walk through, the guy's come over here, and he's gonna pat me down, he looks at me in the eyes and goes, "Are you a sir or a ma'am?"
Okay, so already it seems that this TSA worker was trying to be inclusive or woke, because this is obviously a dude, it's obviously a male. So to even ask that question, clearly they're trying to be accommodating. They can tell you've got they, them energy or whatever, and so they're trying to be accommodating. But yet we're supposed to believe this is the start of a hate crime.
Now, usually when somebody asks me that question, I look them in the eyes and give them a little shoulder shimmy and go, "I'm whatever you want, honey," because I'm not gonna sit there and explain to you what non-binary is. And I obviously knew in that moment that that's not what I was going to say to this, British TSA agent. I don't know what it's called over here. And I kind of froze up, and then I was like, "Doesn't matter."
He probably asked you that question for a reason. So, doesn't matter is kind of an obnoxious response. TSA is dumb in a lot of ways, and honestly, it's kind of security theater to a large extent, but it's not a choose your own adventure game. You don't get to make up your own rules, and you should probably just answer questions when you're asked.
And he looks at his colleague and goes, "What? Are you a sir or a madam?" And I said, "Either way." And the colleague looks at me and goes, "You need to pick one, sir or madam." And in that moment, it hadn't really registered to me that they were trying to decide whether the male or female security agent was going to pat me down, because it was just my ankles, not my area. I didn't think it mattered.
Oh, wait. You're telling me they asked you a serious question for a real reason and you didn't take it seriously and refused to answer because of why exactly? The whole thing is ridiculous so far, but let's hear them out.
I kind of just thought they were telling me that I couldn't be non-binary for some reason.
It's the narcissism for me. Do these people really think anyone cares how they feel inside that much? As if, yeah, I'm sure those TSA agents who are, I'm sure, just trying to do their job and go home, were really concerned about your internal gender identity. It's they haven't grown out of the stage as a young adult or a teenager where you think the whole world's about you. It's that with the radical gender people. They really think they're the center of the universe and everyone else is constantly speculating about how that person must feel inside. It's actually not that deep, bro.
And I just kind of froze. And 3 seconds of silence went by before one of them said, "We're going to go with madam because you can't make up your mind."
Okay, that's kind of funny. Sorry, ladies. That's a little bit funny. But obviously, it's just silly stereotype. Not a lot of truth to that. Trust me, my boyfriend has trouble making up his mind, and he is not a lady. So, but that was probably just a joke. Probably meant for a ha-ha. Is it really that big a deal? Something tells me they, them thinks it is.
Transphobia and misogyny at the airport. Double whammy, girl.
Bro, you have got to be kidding me. The Victim Olympics are out of control with this one. Transphobia and misogyny. They tried to ask you a question to figure out who was going to pat you down, and then one of them made a joke. Get over it, Cupcake. to actually invoke these kinds of serious accusations about bigotry and hatred so lightly is just ridiculous, and unfortunately kind of discredits and downplays them to the extent that people should take them seriously. Well, y'all throw that around like candy on Halloween constantly. So frankly, you're making those words lose their power when you just get triggered by basic security protocol and an offhand joke. Now we're going to take a look at the rest of this video, and it gets somehow even more annoying. But first, a quick message from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Coinbits. Coinbits makes stacking Bitcoin effortless, but if you haven't activated roundups, you're missing out on the best way to invest in Bitcoin every day. After all, we just got the breaking news that the US is moving towards having a strategic crypto reserve with Bitcoin at the heart of it. That means the government could soon start stacking hard money while you're still on the sidelines. And Bitcoin is scarce. Only 21 million will ever exist. So if institutions and governments start buying, demand and prices will soar. That's why now is the time to start stacking. With Coinbits roundups, you're investing in Bitcoin without even thinking about it. Every purchase rounds up your spare change, automatically turning it into Bitcoin. Effortless investing with real upside. Haven't signed up yet? It takes less than 3 minutes to get started. Already signed up, but you haven't activated roundups yet? Don't wait. Activate it now and start stacking Bitcoin effortlessly. Bitcoin is real money that's yours to keep. Cash out whenever you want. No middlemen, no hassle. And don't wait until the price runs away from you. Go to coinbits.app/Brad right now. Sign up, activate roundups, and start stacking Bitcoin today. This is not financial advice, and do your own research before making any financial investment decisions. Now, back to today's show.
Really gagged me a bit. And it's funny because on this trip here and in Germany, a lot of people making commentary like, oh, America, it's pretty scary over there right now. Scary here too, girl. No, I'm not too much better.
Europe is scary because somebody might ask you if you're a sir or a ma'am, and they might make a joke. You need to get a grip, babe. I'm sorry, but the problem at some point is you and your clear lack of emotional resilience, the level of emotional resilience that a functioning adult is supposed to have. Other than that, though, you're doing amazing.
I forgot to add that after that, they went through every single piece of luggage I owned in depth. And there was nothing bad in there, but I'd also just come back from a weekend of like clubbing in Berlin, so it was a lot of like funny thongs and things that they had to like handle. That's on you. But of course, there's like a whole audience watching this go down, so like 15 people got to see that interaction, and then this poor security agent pulling like leather and lace and thigh-high boots out of my luggage. At least they had somebody to talk about on the flight home.
Now, some people in the comments on this TikTok video realized how dumb this was and how much of a mountain out of a molehill this dude was making, but some people in the comments actually were enabling the Delulu and actually encouraging him to view himself as a victim from this utterly benign and not particularly significant incident. One person wrote, "I am so sorry you were harassed like that. What the heck does someone's gender have to do with getting on an aircraft? Such a blatant display of discrimination. When the F did TSA start asking that? Is the harassment in the room with us? Did I just miss that part of the video?" And they were literally just trying to make him comfortable to make sure that he wasn't patted down by someone of a gender that would make him uncomfortable, which might not really apply to a man, but probably applies a lot more to women who might not want to be patted down by dudes. So they're not trying to discriminate against anyone. They're trying to make sure people are comfortable. And here we are attacking them for it online. Another person commented, "This is scary, and I appreciate you sharing it." Scary? Girl. Get a grip. Another person wrote, "As a Brit, I'm so frustrated that happened to you. It's not acceptable, and you do not deserve to be treated with disrespect." If you ask me, the ones who were treated with disrespect are these random TSA agents who were just trying to do their jobs and had this attention-seeking influencer play the victim and put them on blast online to millions of people potentially with his audience for no real reason. I'm just getting really sick of this constant desire to play the victim and to seek attention, and honestly, even the whole non-binary thing in general, all of it's just dragging the LGBT movement down at this point. Like, it's clearly gone way too far, and people have had enough of it, and they're getting fed up. And honestly, with people like this as the face of the movement, I can see why. Honestly, I can see why. What do you guys think? Do you actually somehow see him as a victim from this experience? Let me know in the comments. Up next, we got another woke white savior entering the chat.
I'm gonna piss off my For You page. Trans people are valid, 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 trans people are valid.
Wow, his bravery is stunning. This dude is basically the modern day Rosa Parks, the civil rights savior of our era. Bro, seriously? I actually think legitimate trans people who have gender dysphoria diagnosed from a doctor, not people who put he/they in their bio or who identify as a unicorn or whatever, but legitimate trans people I do think are valid, but this is just such trite virtue signaling and so annoying and so not helpful. Honestly, it feels like you're trying to get some woke girl with they, them in her bio to sleep with you, and you think this is going to be your golden ticket. It doesn't feel like you're actually trying to help anyone or accomplish anything. The virtue signaling was off the charts in the comments. Somebody wrote, "This is a valid post," and he wrote, "Thank you, but don't validate me. I'm a straight white dude. I get enough of that. This post is for them." The cringe is off the charts. This dude really thought he cooked. He thinks he's so stunning and so brave. Up next, we got a woke TikTok I actually kind of agree with, but not in the way this person expects.
I think there's a difference between being LGBT and being queer.
So far I agree. Being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or having gender dysphoria, those things are not choices. But the whole queer thing is very much a political identity and a statement that people choose. I agree so far.
I think you're born LGBT. I think you choose to be queer. And what I mean by that is that queerness is a long, deep, vast community. And it is a rejection of norms. And it is a reverence and a deference to being different. It is not trying to recreate models that are not in my nature or preference, right? Like, it is choosing to understand that, like, my life will never look like a cisgender straight person's. That's just never going, I will not fit into the cishet model. And instead of trying to squeeze myself into that, I can actually radically accept that I am just completely different from that model.
Again, I agree. Normal gays and lesbians and bi people and even normal trans adults who just want to blend in and live their lives aren't queer. They are not radicals who want to tear down the system. They want to assimilate into society and live normal, productive lives. Queers, the activist types, are the ones who want to burn everything down and then want to try to ride our coattails to do so. But I actually think this is good. I think we need to. These people can go start their own community, the queer community. And the things that unite them can be the bull-looking ass nose rings and the radical politics and the Marxism and all that stuff, and stop conflating it with who we are and our immutable demographic characteristics. I actually think this guy's cooking. Like, I actually think this guy is making a lot of sense, just absolutely not in the way he intends whatsoever, but in the sense of, yes, please identify as queer and make that a separate thing with your radical tear everything down, destroy America, destroy capitalism, whatever politics. Take that and start your own thing and stop conflating it with my right to get married and live my life happily.
And so is everyone else within that confine, right? Like, queerness does not mean gay male community. Queerness is having, you know, gender non-conforming friends, lesbian friends, listening to lesbian music, going to lesbian spaces and not being the star of the show, right? Like, as a gay man, that's what that means for me, is decentering, because we're kind of the, like, mascot of, like, LGBT, you know? But, like, I think when you're really in a queer community, trans women, trans people are at the center of this.
He just said the quiet part out loud in so many ways. Yeah, the reason that traditionally gay men have been kind of the face of LGBT is because there's a lot of them. There's actually a lot more bisexual people, but many of them kind of, if they end up with a opposite sex partner, kind of blend in and aren't necessarily as visible. But that's why. It's like, yeah, because it's a lot of them. And also gay rights was very much first, and trans people are a tiny, tiny percent of the population. So it would be weird and strange if your demographic group had absolute minority as the face and representation of the whole thing. If you want to do that with your weird little side political cult, be my guest.
And I posted a YouTube video that goes much more into depth about this and how it ties into politics and the ever mushrooming, demographic of Republican and conservative LGBT people, and how I do think it's actually important to draw the line between LGBT and queer, because I'm about protecting my community, my queer community, and not everyone that's LGBT is in that community, because there are people who are LGBT who are anti-queer. So if you want to hear more about this, go watch my YouTube. That's where I'm really enjoying posting a lot these days. So see you there.
Wait, so like, we agree. Yeah, let's separate LGBT from queer community, and us LGBT who are anti-queer and anti all your radical crazy ideas and your movement and your activism, let's make that split. Your terms are acceptable. I find it funny because this guy, his video hit, just not in the way he intended whatsoever. Up next, a trans influencer is out with an interesting and informative video that only made me want to die inside a little bit.
Being trans is when you go from being a boy to a girl or a girl to a boy. Not exactly.
Well, that's what it used to mean before woke people like you colonized it and made it into incoherent nonsense, which is where I'm getting the vibe that we're going.
Well, what is it then? I'm glad you asked.
That made me want to say a slur. Like, was all that really necessary, babe? Really?
People who identify as trans don't identify as the sex they were assigned at birth. Meaning, anyone who identifies not as the sex that they were assigned at birth can identify as trans if they want to. And believe me, there are a lot of identities under the trans umbrella. Ayy. Identifying as trans aren't just for trans men and trans women. Non-binary people are trans. Trans-masc people are trans. Gender-fluid friends are trans. Agender friends. Demi-boys and demi-girls. Literally so many other identities are trans too. And it's actually pretty freaking cool. Just because someone might say that they're trans or that they identify as trans doesn't mean that they identify as a trans man or a trans woman. It's just an umbrella term. They could be any identity under the trans umbrella. And we shouldn't assume people's identities. But no matter how someone might identify under the trans umbrella, we love all our trans friends! Yo!
We really didn't need that close a close-up. But this is actually, so the problem is that she thinks she's explained something profound. All she's really done is explain the problem that she and others like her have caused. Like, trans used to be a tiny slice of the population that had a medical condition and would live their life differently and would live as if they're the other sex, and it wasn't that much of an issue. But when y'all made it this umbrella of all this imaginary and fake stuff with no real preconditions, stripping it of the medical connotation and context, y'all made it kind of a joke, and y'all made it lose acceptance and generate a lot of pushback. So, amazing job, I guess. I can't take any more of this person, or I'll say something that will get me banned from YouTube. So we're going to move on. We're going to keep it moving. Up next, this is one person's very normal response to an elderly influencer who poked fun at the trans bathroom debate. Take a look.
Back in my day, this sign was easy to understand. Let's not confuse the next generation.
Back in my day, this sign was easy to understand. Back when I was 20.
You know what's not hard to understand is a catheter in an old folks' home. If you're having trouble understanding simple-ass shit, then maybe just go there. Anyways, here's an easy-to-understand sign that we can put on a tombstone, for no reason.
He seems lovely and stable. I mean, his video was kind of funny, but it's actually unhinged to compare gender separation or sex separation of bathrooms to racial segregation. There's no reason to separate the races arbitrarily, which is why it's evil and wrong. There are actually plenty of good reasons to separate men and women in a whole different host of contexts. Biology is real, society is real, and there are lots of differences between men and women that need to be taken into account where there's no real parallel or corollary with race. Hope that helps. And dunking on this grandma for her kind of cheesy video with an extreme take like this, I mean, it got him lots of views and likes, I guess, but it comes off as unhinged. Up next, another condescending woke TikTok.
It's crazy how half of us are like, racism is bad, sexism is bad, homophobia is bad, and the other half are like, no.
These kind of people make me roll my eyes so hard I give myself a headache. As if you really think, in your infinite wisdom, all 25 years old or whatever you are, that yeah, the world is so simple. I've answered all the questions that divide us, and it's so easy to perceive everything that's right and wrong in the world, and everyone who disagrees must just be evil and bigoted. It's all just good guys and bad guys. On one side of every issue, there's the people that like people, and then on the other side, there's the people that hate everyone and are nasty bigots and evil people. Seriously? You seriously think our politics and our society is that simple? It's giving mental toddler. This kind of thing just comes off as so condescending and patronizing and grating to the other side. It furthers absolutely nothing other than maybe riling up other extreme, simple-minded people who agree with you. Great work, I guess, but just calling everyone racist, sexist, homophobic, blah, 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 all the time, just baselessly, is literally like why Trump is in power, which is the thing they're all so mad about, but only the toxic and broken culture that people like this or people with this kind of perspective created would ever have produced a Trump presidency, let alone a Trump presidency 2.0. Keep up the great work, I guess. All right, y'all, I really can't handle any more of these videos without, I think, incurring permanent brain damage. So please do hit that like button to reward my suffering. I suffer for you, for your entertainment and viewing pleasure. So the least you can do is hit that like button and make sure subscribed if you aren't yet. And do comment with your thoughts while you're at it. I do take the time to read the comments. I always love hearing what you guys have to say. And with that, we'll talk again real soon.